The last time we saw Pete Buttigieg, we were in our offices still.
And he was running
a-
for president. And he was running for president.
Well, no, last time we saw him, he was no longer running for president.
Oh, is that right?
You have already forgotten. Yeah, that's true. But listen, let's catch up with him because a lot has changed. Obviously, in the country, a lot has changed for Pete. He is back home in South Bend, Indiana, and he is joining us now to talk about all that's changed. Pete, welcome back to TMZ Live.
Well, thanks. It's good to be with you virtually, and yeah, it's strange to think just a month ago I was a candidate for president, and so much has changed, and so much has changed since I was able to swing by your offices on what I expected would be the middle of a coast-to-coast thank you tour to visit supporters, but wound up being the last trip that I've taken, and it's quite a switch from complaining that there was never any time at home to leaving the house. Maybe once a day to walk the dogs, and that's about it. So I guess you get what you ask for sometimes, more than you could have guessed.
Exactly.
We got a lot to talk to you about, but the first thing we got to address, dude, the beard looks good.
You know, I thought I'd take advantage of the fact that nobody was expecting me to shave, so I'm not sure how long the beard will be with us, but it's fun to do something a little different. As you can see, we had our first attempt at in-house hair care too. Chaston is good at lots of things, but I should have listened to him when he said, "Don't let me do this, Dave. I'm going to mess up your hair." But I said, "Hey, let's give it a shot."
Hey, Pete. When we spoke as you were running, I remember just thinking you were going to so many different states every day that you couldn't keep it straight. And now you go from 100 miles an hour to 0 miles an hour, and you are basically self-quarantining yourself in South Bend in your home. That must be pretty shocking.
Yeah, you know, I don't know what's a bigger transition, coming off being a presidential candidate to not doing that, or going into this kind of quarantine. And for me, both happened at almost the same time. You know, we used to really celebrate if I noticed that the schedule called for us to be in the same hotel for 2 nights in a row, because it would feel just a little more settled. I went through about a month period where I think I was here at home maybe one day, and now. You know, we've definitely set some records for the number of meals we've had at home in a row, number of times we've cooked in a row, and the number of times we've been sitting down at a table. Most of my meals on the campaign were in a vehicle, in between things. So it's a radical change in life. But of course, everybody in some way or another is going through that.
You're adjusting to life at home. I'm just wondering what you think Joe Biden is going through right now, because he also is in the same situation. The problem for him is he's trying to run for president. Talk about the challenge this creates going forward for him.
Well, look, politics fundamentally is about encounter. It's about meeting other people, spending time with people, and the idea of doing that while being denied the chance to physically gather with anybody, it's tough. I will say I think this is a good moment for Joe Biden to demonstrate what his presidency would be like and why it's different, why it's so different than what Donald Trump is doing. And I think that's why we're seeing him doing a lot of these video appearances and just sending a different kind of message. But, you know, I know him to be somebody who in particular really thrives on being around people physically and being in a room with people kicking around ideas and talking to folks, which, again, is just the bread and butter of running for office.
I'm curious. One of the stars that has emerged from this is Andrew Cuomo, the governor in New York.
Yeah.
And because all these primaries are getting canceled, is there a chance that if Biden doesn't have enough delegate votes and this becomes a brokered convention, that there could be a groundswell for Andrew Cuomo?
I think this is time for us to consolidate around our nominee. I know it's not official yet, but it's also very clear from the math that Joe Biden is the I would say prohibitive frontrunner for the nomination, and we've got the election of our lives on our hands in now uncharted territory as well. Now, I'll say there's tons of wonderful leadership that's happening at the state and local level. Andrew Cuomo in New York is a great example of that. A lot of my fellow mayors are an example of that right now, providing great leadership. But I think, if anything, they're reminding us why we need a president who is decent, compassionate, and fact-oriented. And that's the kind of president Joe Biden would be.
What kind of president is Trump in this?
Well, it feels like we don't have a president in so many important ways. Look, part of the job is just calling the American people together, setting the right tone, calling us to our higher values, and making sure good information gets out there. And we're just not seeing that from this president. There are some people around him who I think are doing their best. I think Dr. Fauci and others are, people who just don't think in terms of politics or partisanship, and that's a good thing. But more than ever, it's really in the cities and the states that we're finding the leadership that I wish we had coming out of the White House.
Do we need a national quarantine?
I think at this point, anywhere in the country, we need to be staying at home and doing everything that we can to slow the spread of this virus.
You know, the other thing that really struck me, and you talked about this so much in the campaign, is that you're not a rich man. And Chasten is a teacher and school's been canceled, and you resigned as mayor to run for president. So you're really getting no income at this point. And I'm wondering what that's like for you.
It's a strange feeling not to have a day job. We're going to be fine. I saved up knowing that we were going to do this, and enough people this year bought Shortest Way Home, my book, that we're gonna be fine getting through this year. But a lot of people are in a really tough situation right now, and it's one of the reasons why I think we need more aggressive federal policy. The best approach that I think would work well right now is not only cash support to gig workers and people who are out of work, but also ensuring that employers get support if and only if they promise to keep everybody employed. We're experimenting a lot. There's a lot of pasta going on right now because that's what I grew up on. And Chasten is an expert with Brussels sprouts, so there's a lot of that in our lives. And of course, we try to do some takeout.
So you need this to end quickly. If it's more Brussels sprouts, you need this to end now. Nobody needs it to end faster than Pete Buttigieg does.
By the way, Pete, pasta and Brussels sprouts sounds disgusting.
No. You just gotta have the right. You just gotta have the right flavor and sauce on it.
Yeah. Hey, we love having you on. We love following your journey.
Thank you. Always a pleasure.
Hey, Pete, thank you. Stay
well. Take care. Be safe.
Stay well.